Welcome back to another episode of Keoni Chats. So as I was progressing through my journalism and communications program at the University of Oregon, I wanted to be a better photographer. I started at the previous community college I was at, Lane Community College, by picking up a camera and just pointing it at something and clicking, and hopefully that turns out great. That was my process. So while at UO, I took some photography classes. I learned the ins and outs of the camera, and I got better at it, but it still wasn't up to what I would see on social media. Granted, social media is where a lot of people post their best stuff, but I knew I was driven enough to try to get there as well. But when it came to looking at Alex Nunley's photos on his Instagram, I had to take a moment and stop and really absorb in what I'm just looking at, because he's primarily a nature photographer, and his pictures of just very nice, beautiful and scenic areas on top of a mountain, or whether it's at a waterfall, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it makes me want to try that myself and see if there's a forest outside. Maybe I can step out there and see what I can find, because just inspiration can come from random places, and I was inspired from Alex's photos. So I talked to him about that, and then most recently he covered the Black Lives Matter protests in Portland about, I think it was about March to April, around that time frame when everything was going on, and just to get his response to what someone said to him when they said that, hey, you're primarily a nature photographer, what are you doing here? That was very profound. I was very, I was one of those, good job, man. That was a great answer, the way he responded. I'm not going to tell you guys how he answered, because then you won't listen to the episode or watch the episode. So we talked about a lot of things, and what really stands out to me when it comes to Alex Nunley was when him and I were working at Nike Portland together, and he was one of the athletes that would constantly volunteer to go to a school, I think a school like in the area, and play and just show the kids how to stay active for like 60 minutes and just have fun with them. And I did one volunteering with him, and I wasn't that great at it because I was really thrown off by the environment, and he just seemed so natural and comfortable, and that was just absolutely inspiring, because it just showed that he, once he finds a passion, he goes all out, and I liked that. I was like, this is awesome. This guy's cool. So yeah, we had a great chat, and plus anytime I talk to him, it's such short conversations, because it's about work, and then it's about sports, and then once we're done with work, we just pretty much go home from there, because customer service, it's exhausting. It could be draining. So it was good to get him to talk more and open up more about himself, which he actually has trouble doing, as this was a good challenge for him, and growth. That's one thing I love to hear, and one thing I'm pushing for always. So I just want to remind everyone that there is a DC animated movie review that I am always working on. So 2017 is currently in the books, meaning that it is available for everyone to take a look at and review, critique. So how you would get there is go to keoniconlu.com, KEONICONLU.com. If you are on your phone, click the menu button. If you are on your computer, go to the blogs tab, click the DC image, and then you will see all of the entries broken up by about 5 films. So you'll see some with 2 years, some with just 1 year. Again, I just like 5 films because I'm an oddball, but it seems like a fine number to me. So whether you are listening to Alex's interview through Spotify, Apple Podcast, or you're trying on Amazon Music, there is also a video version available on YouTube. I hope you enjoy my chat with Alex Nunley. We are in a new month, which means it's time for another new guest. Alex Nunley, former coworker of mine from Nike Portland, sitting down to virtually chat with me today. How you doing,
buddy? Too bad, not too bad, man. Just hanging out. Excited to it's November, so it's officially Christmas season. So, also unrelated note, just a selfish plug for myself. 5 days away from a turn of 25, so cue my
Hey.
quarter life crisis.
Well, I'm almost 30, so I feel like my quarter life crisis wasn't too drastic. But hey, if you make it as loud and boisterous as you like. Have any
Yeah, man.
plans for your midlife crisis or quarter life crisis?
Yeah, a bunch of my buddies and I from high school are going down to Bend. I actually have the same birthday as one of my closest friends, so we got Airbnb down there, a bunch of us, and just gonna go down there, hang out, and nothing big planned, but should be a good time.
Yeah. So you are in customer service, and also, well, you were before jumping over to your new position, which we'll talk about
Mhm.
later. But you are going to go down to Bend with an Airbnb. COVID at all? Were you worried? How are you feeling about it? Because you're a traveling guy. You like to move around.
So I mean, I think at the start of it, just like everybody else, I mean, I was very cautious. I wanted like there's a lot of uncertainty of what it was and what it entails and all of that. And honestly, I never really had a like concern of me getting it. I was more so concerned of me getting it and giving it to somebody else who was less healthy than I was, right? So I feel like I was pretty cautious. Like I'm very pro mask. Wash your hands. It's like I love this because it's actually teaching people to wash their hands. I feel like people never washed their fingers before
Hmm.
COVID, so I'm all for it. I think at this point, I'm just selective on who I'm around. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go to a crowded party or a club with a bunch of people, a bunch of strangers I don't know. The people I'm going out to Bend with are all pretty close friends that I see regularly, regardless of um, going to Bend or not. So I don't really worry about that. And I know the group I'm going with too. Like they have pretty similar feelings, and they're pretty um, like I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Cognizant of
Yeah.
what's going on, and yeah, I mean, I definitely take it seriously, but um, at the same time, like at some point in life, we all have to start living with it again. I actually haven't traveled since I haven't had like a oh damn actually. I went to Bend and went camping like right before COVID started, and then I went once again in the summer. But I don't think I've like left the state since I went to Hawaii like a year and a half ago. So, oh no, I went to Montana. I went to Montana about a year ago actually, but since then, like I haven't really done any traveling like I used to, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of the traveling I saw on your YouTube channel or your social medias, it's been to kind of natural, deserty, very open space. How did you get into being with nature? Is this something you just dived on into, or was this a parental influence?
Uh, so I grew up in Troutdale. I don't know if you know where that's at, but it's East Portland. It's like right at the mouth of the Columbia River Gorge, which is just like one of my favorite places. A lot of hiking, a lot of outdoorsy stuff to do there. And growing up, my dad would like take me and my sister out there a lot. We'd go hiking, and then I started getting a little bit older, and I started to have a passion for that myself. So it's just always been something I feel like I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed camping. I enjoyed like just being around nature. And then now I'm at an age where I have the ability to drive my own car out and do these things by myself. So I mean, being able to expand that bubble that I lived in of Oregon and Mount Hood and Columbia River Gorge and be able to venture out a little bit further. It's always been something that's really fun for me. Uh, I haven't really got to venture out as far as I wanted to. The farthest I've been is, well, I guess it depends on like it's like the same hourly distance, but radius is the farthest I went is Banff up in Canada. It was beautiful. I loved it there. But I have aspirations to go a little bit further. I want to go to Iceland. It's been on my bucket list since like 2016. Um, yeah, once we have post COVID, I'm hoping to finally make that happen.
I agree with you when it came to this is going to be around probably for a very long time. So I'm going to be cautious about the COVID and traveling and all that, but I'm also going to continue living my life. Continue going to like food places if they have an outdoor patio, or continue, you know, dating or whatever it may be. So it's good that you're finally over that phase of, being cautious and just being smart cautious instead of
Yeah.
just being
Being
overall.
being smart, cautious, I think is the best way to do it. We all went through a pretty heavy quarantine from March to mid June, I think it was, and it's like, I don't know, that took a heavy toll on me mentally. But I mean, I felt like what I was doing was right, but at some point, I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, this is similar to the flu in the sense, like, it's never going to go away. It's just we're going to learn how to live with it. So I definitely wish more people could see it that way. And like, I don't know. I think we could be in a better spot like other countries are if people had taken this more seriously from the start. But I mean, there's days like I'll just be driving down Sandy or whatever in past Century, and there's just like 100 people crammed into that little patio. Probably not 100 because they start out restrictions, but I don't know. Just like I feel like a lot of people think it's over, and it's not over. It's just we're learning to live with it, you know.
Yeah. And so COVID started about, like, let's say late February, early March. You were still at Nike Portland. So how was that process of starting to whittle down the hours? Because I believe you also got into management at that point. What was that process like to start whittling down hours, trying to figure out how you're going to keep the store open and also just trying to work with all the regulations?
Yeah. So I mean, I had a stretch last year, referring to the management piece. I had a stretch last year where one of our leaders was out of the building for paternity leave, and I got to stretch into a leadership role from like October to mid January. So actually, when COVID really started to hit its peak, I wasn't in that role anymore. So I was not a part of that like game planning, I guess. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure the game planning came from a higher level than our store anyways, but I mean, just like for everybody, it was a lot of uncertainty from the start. And I remember actually we closed on March 15th, like, and I just remember going to work on March 14th, and everybody was in panic. Like everybody was working there. Like 4 or 5 people called out because nobody wanted to be there. I was pissed that we were there. I was like, why are we here like right now? Like this is not that serious. Like Apple had closed already, Starbucks was closed, like all of these things. And I just remember somebody in the building had said like, oh, we're not going to close until we can't staff this store. And I was just like, what the hell? Like, what does that mean? And that kind of frustrated me, but lo and behold, the next day we closed. And I think I spent the first 2 weeks like expecting this all to blow over like a lot of people did. And then after that, I realized like, holy shit, like I better hunker down and get my 2K up because I'm going to be sitting here for a while. So that's kind of what I did. And I spent the first probably month, like I was trying to push myself to be really productive. I was trying to exercise, and I tried to learn how to I did learn how to use Adobe Illustrator and things like that, just to not have it wasted time. I read a couple books, which was huge for me. But then I got to a point, like I said, probably after a month, where it's just like, all right, this is getting old. Like waking up, walking the dog, coming back, and then not knowing what to do for the next 5 hours. But sorry, to get back to your question, like, yeah, dude, when this was all starting working in retail, I was very much not excited to be there because I mean, like, we have a website. There's people who want to come in and they want to just like look around and they want to shop, and that's great. But at the same time, it's like I don't think anything that store is selling is a necessity or essential, and it just made me feel like I don't want to say like undervalued, but just like I don't want to say undervalued and disposable are like the two words that are coming to head. It's not. I don't think either of those are quite right. I think they're a little extreme, but
But it's a natural thoughts to have when, especially in a very unconcerned time like we're talking about. And, with you selling, if you were at, let's say, Target, where people actually do need those things, where like, let's say, toiletries or medicines or anything like that, then sure, those words coming to your head probably wouldn't have happened. But since you were working at Nike, where you just sell clothes and shoes and things people don't actually need in this time, it makes sense to me why you would feel that
yep,
way, and why you're
no,
not ready. You were frustrated with that point,
yeah, nobody needed a pair of Air Forces that badly, but it's
especially at
okay.
the price point they would sell it at. Please, no,
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
yeah, it was. it was a interesting couple of days, and just seeing how differently everybody was reacting to what was going on too was really interesting. See, like, I don't know, I feel like in most instances in that my time in that company, like most political or social issues that were going on, I felt like people had pretty aligned beliefs and like aligned feelings towards those things. Like, I mean, you can see as well as I can, like Nike isn't afraid to stand up and speak out, speak their mind. And I think if you don't agree with the company, that company, it's not going to be a company you succeed in.
Hmm.
But with COVID, it was really interesting to see. There was a lot of like competing opinions. There's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, it's not that serious. It's gonna blow over." And there's other people who's like, "I want to go home. I don't want to be here," you
Hmm.
know. And I feel like that was my first time because I was there for just about 6 years. Like that was the first time any issue had came up that I felt like there's really strongly competing opinions on it.
Yeah. So you were on that side of this is ridiculous. I want to be at home. I feel safer there. So would
I
you
was kind
say?
of, when it was sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
When I was starting, I wouldn't say I was the extreme like side of things. I was like, I don't want to be here, but I mean, it is my job. And like, while we're here, I'm gonna be here. Like, also, as you know, like I work in the stock room mostly, so I wasn't too worried about it. I was just more so worried because like we did have people in the store that were like immunocompromised. That like that puts you in a tough position because it's like I want to be there for my team and like I don't want like to get an exception or like be treated specially, but at the same time, like I don't feel safe being here, and it's like difficult for I would imagine it's difficult for that person to try and speak up in that instance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And when I was working there, I would have that thought of I just don't want to be here on any given day because it's like,
Mhm. Yeah.
dealing with customers is not the funnest. And then I feel like, from the outside looking in, maybe some people might use that as an excuse to come out to just be at home or just to like get a
Yep.
day off of work, which if that, so be it. But it's like, I don't, at my new job, it's like no one's gone that route, but I feel like at those other jobs where people are constantly unhappy and just being like, "Oh, this sucks." Well, at least I have an excuse to not go to work today and just say
Yeah.
take a mental day and just say I need to be at home because I don't feel safe.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Retail can definitely take its toll on you.
So the store closed down, and then let's say 2-3 months later, the Black Lives Matter movement is sprouted up and it's in its full force. Now, the store was boarded up, I assume, or was the store boarded up as soon as you guys shut those doors on March 15th, or was it not until the uh, Black Lives Matter movements started that you guys decided to board it all up?
So two things. One's less important, but now that I say March 15th, that might have been the day the protest started. I don't remember if that's the day our store closed because of COVID or if that's the day that the protest started, but either way, that's a
Yeah,
prevalent date in my head. But
yeah.
no, when we first decided to close up for COVID, like we didn't board up. We just had, I think we had 24-hour security. I don't know that for sure.
Hmm.
At one point we did. I just don't remember if that started before or after the protests. Um, no, but I remember because I think we're about to get a little bit more into like shooting BLM. But the first day that like those protests like really popped off the night back in March when there was like a lot of looting and Apple got looted and Louis got looted and all those things. Like I remember waking up and I was like, holy hell, man, this is happening like in Portland. Like that's crazy. I honestly couldn't believe it. Like I looked at those videos on social media. It looks like I don't know, it didn't even look like Portland to me. So that next morning I wasn't I don't remember if I was off or we were already closed, but I wasn't working. So I was like, I'm gonna drive downtown and just like see, like check it out, you know? And of course I brought my camera. So I drove down there, just did a little a little walk around Pioneer, and it's kind of crazy. I was like, I can't believe this is really going on right now. And I hadn't like fully um invested myself into like learning more about what was going on at the time. I was just like, wow, like it's a lot of destruction. And I took a few pictures. I thought it was pretty like empowering. And I went on with my day. Um, Later, that evening, the girl I was dating at the time and I was like, "Oh, you want to go downtown and like you see what's going on? Like it's crazy." And she's like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." And we pulled up to right in front of the courthouse and we parked and just like walked down. There's a lot of protesters out there, um, like a lot of protesters out there. And I just kind of walked in. I had my camera, and so the courthouse is on Third and I don't remember the cross street, but it's on Third,
Yeah.
and I could see down on Second Street, like down the block, there was just a line of police officers. Like I don't know what they were doing. They were getting well. Now I know what they're doing, but at the time I didn't know what they're doing. There was no protesters in between Third and Second. It was just an empty block. So it was like protesters here, police right here. And I was like, I want to get a picture of the police. So I started walking down there, and I got probably like 10 feet away. I was standing on the sidewalk. I wasn't in the road. And I was just like taking a couple of photos of it. And these two protesters, like or three protesters, marched down the street and like stood right in front of the cops. There was three females. They laid down on their stomach and put their hands behind their backs. Like I guess it's like to be like a sign of submission. Like
Mhm.
arrest me. Like if you're not going to agree with what I'm doing, arrest me. And one of the cops, there was words exchanged. I couldn't hear what it was, but one of the cops like picked one of them up by the back of the head and like hit her across the face with a baton. And I
Oh.
was like, "Holy shit, dude!" And I was like, in that moment, like everything changed. Like it went from like a very calm, like police are over here, protesters over here. Like the protesters were pissed, but they
Mhm.
weren't. They weren't. Nobody was agitating one another until that moment. And I was like, "Holy shit, dude!" Like that's fucking crazy. Like I just watched. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah, they're fine. They're
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure.
fine.
And I was like, wow, man. So like I was like, wow. And then at that moment, protesters started moving towards cops, and then all of a sudden I hear like the sergeant or whatever like
Yeah.
yell march, and they start going forward. And it's like, dude, it's like a scene out of a movie where these two like groups are going towards each other.
Mhm.
And um, I'm not gonna lie, like I saw a lot of like protesters throwing bottles and things like that, like mostly plastic water bottles. They were flying over the edge, and I was like, okay, I'm in a bad spot right now because I'm in between two pissed off groups of people. So I started moving back towards my car, kind of climbed up on some scaffolding to like continue trying to take photos. And um, at that moment, the police truck started like blaring. It's like, this is now an unlawful assembly. Immediately disperse, or you'll be subject to force or arrest. Obviously, nobody really dispersed, and then they started throwing those flashbangs. And like when the first one went off, man, like that was a weird feeling, like being around that, like having that echo through the buildings. But just like I was just trying to go down and see what's going on and be part of the movement, and then you start
Mhm.
experiencing things like that, and it's just kind of crazy. But when that first one went, that's when a group started this like disperse, and we started walking back to our car, and like at this point we're like a block away from where the chaos was, and we're kind of like looking. We're in the back of the crowd, back of the protesters, just continuing to kind of watch. And then tear gas started getting shot, and like a tear gas canister landed like not too far from us. And man, that stuff's potent. Like I'm not even gonna
Oh.
say like I got like a dose of it or whatever you want to call it. Like I wasn't affected. Like, you could just feel that in your lungs. Like it's heavy and it burns. Um, and I feel like I'm going on a little long here, but we got in the car, drove off. There's actually a video on Twitter I can send you after this that I just randomly found of us driving off after all the people started to scatter. Just a random person posted it. But then we went back towards where we were living and took our dog for a walk because like that's what we do when we come home from a day, and life is normal, life is peaceful, life is quiet. And it's weird 'cause our apartment was a mile, not even a mile from where all of that was happening. Um, and like that's the moment where I kind of realized like how like privileged of a life I had. I was like the ability to just like step away from that, like and drive 5 minutes and be in my own comfort world. It was
Mm.
kind of like it was a weird feeling.
Yeah.
And then from then on, we just kept going to the protests. We kept going. The time they were gathering at Revolution Hall, which was a couple blocks from our apartment, we just walked down there and we went to like every single protest for like 2 weeks, I think.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, man.
So you were saying how when COVID started, you got the routine down, but then you were starting to get tired of the routine. You needed something different. Was this the kind of change you were thinking that would give you a little more spark to, make you feel alive again, or is this 100% not what you had in mind when you said that you needed a different kind of routine or just need to change it up a bit?
I mean, I don't think anybody needed this. It's just obviously a bunch of like, I think the society needed it, like like this movement,
Mhm.
but nobody wanted it to happen, of course. And I feel like there could have been we just all wish it wasn't an issue, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think this time is like, starting with COVID, like it has just led to so much divisiveness across the country. It's really disturbing. But as an individual, like, yeah, I wanted something else to be doing with my day. Again, like I would rather this not be an issue than to have been able to go to those protests in the evening. But eventually, like those protests became part of the routine as well. Is I go on with my day around 6 o'clock. I think is when they were starting. We go down there and be part of the protest for until varies based off night, but 9 o'clock, sometimes later. Um, yeah, it was.
Have, did you have any kind of, I guess, what kind of responses did you get from other protesters? Because they see someone with a camera, but
Yep.
they might not see like a press badge, so they might think you're just part of the mass media. Did anyone approach you specifically, or are you just kind of incognito the whole time?
I didn't have anybody at a protest approach me about it. I did get some comments on Instagram and some DMs, like people like saying that this wasn't my genre of photography and like I shouldn't be exploiting it. Well, they didn't directly say I shouldn't be exploiting it. I did see a lot of people like just through social media saying like don't like. I saw one thing in particular. I don't remember who posted it. It wasn't directed at me, but it's like photographers don't think this is you're gonna be your moment for your big break. Like, don't take
Mhm.
away from the movement to try and grow yourself. And I don't know, like I definitely see that point of view, but at the same time, it's like, first of all, nobody's gonna tell me what my genre of photography is or what my form of art is. And second of all, like I was doing it as a form of documentation. Like how my story started, like I told you, like that girl getting hit in the face with a baton. My very first post that I posted up on Instagram about the protest was about that. And then from that moment on, I started realizing I was like, I have 14,000 followers. I was like, it's not a huge audience, but it is a platform I have, and I do have a voice that I can share and educate through. So I never looked at it as I'm going down here hoping that CNN will feature my photo or whatever. It's like I'm going down here. I'm going to talk to the audience I have, share the reality of what's happening, because just in those moments, like realizing like how a media, like a news outlet or a media source, can create whatever narrative they want and their followers are going to believe them. It's just like it was really weird to me. It's like I didn't read a single story about what I saw, right? Except for what I saw. So that was my purpose of being out there and taking photos, is want to be part of this movement. This is truly history. Like this is a major moment in America and our life, like our lives. But um, I wanted to be out there to be able to document it and share my side of the story.
Yeah. And some of your photos have been absolutely breathtaking when the not just the composition, but the angles you took to get the shot that you're looking for. And then to plug in your website, alexnunley.com, you could see all of the photos. And then you also have a banner at the very top where you are donating all proceeds from the photos of your Black Lives Matter cover
Mhm.
to any Black Lives Matter organization. How has that charity or in fundraiser been going so far?
So I mean, since I think my last order was in June, hasn't really been popping off. But at the same time, it's like a lot of things do on social media. Like things lose their flair or their fire. They stop burning as bright, so it lost a little bit of attention. But man, when it first started, I was actually kind of dumbfounded. I mean, I didn't get like an absurd amount of orders. I think I ended up getting, I don't know how many I got, but I know it's about like $400 worth. So I mean, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to get like one or two maybe. But it was really awesome. It's like I got orders from people across the country. It was mostly local stuff, but yeah, it was really cool to see that happen. And to be able to make like, yeah, it's $400, but at the same time, like that was cool for me to be able to create that impact. And I think I ended up donating it to, I can look back. I'm pretty sure it was just NAACP. I felt like that was a pretty prominent cause that a lot of people were supporting at the time, and I couldn't figure out how to donate it to the Portland chapter specifically, but I like still went to. I don't know if you remember when you were at Nike, but the Nevity. It's the way that we donate our hours from volunteering.
Yeah.
They were doing a double match to them, so whatever I donated, Nike matched, which was pretty cool. Just make a little bit bigger of an impact there.
Yeah, yeah, that's any little bit helps, and whatever charity could just use the support. So it's nice. It's awesome that you're able to again raise something versus nothing. And did you ever worry about? I mean, your safety obviously was something you probably worried about. Like from that first moment you took that first shot. How would you say your comfortability progressed the more you went to the protest as they progressed? You know, they did 100 consecutive nights, and then I believe the fires probably put an end to that. But how did you feel your safety progressed or your comfortability with it?
I never felt like I never really felt like I was in any danger. Like I was not doing anything wrong. I feel like I was playing like I don't really know how to put it into words. I never felt unsafe. I think there was definitely times of uneasiness, you know, just like being in a crowd that large of people, especially during a pandemic, especially where you're standing in front of a line of police officers, is like you never know what one person's gonna do. You know, like I knew I was never gonna be a target of anything. Like I didn't think a police officer was gonna come after me and like smash my camera because like I'm not pushing my boundaries. I'm not gonna get up in there while they're trying to arrest somebody, or I'm not gonna be up in anybody's face. So I never like really worried about it in that sense. All I was uneasy about, specifically the second night I went out. So like I said, that first night was downtown in front of the courthouse. The second night we marched up Burnside to the East Precinct, and we are staying in front of there. So it's like it was still a new environment for me being there. And I just like I remember being in that crowd, and I just really wanted to be on the edge of the crowd. I don't want to be in the middle of it because I mean there's just so much that could happen. So I don't know. I wouldn't say like I was ever fearful. I was ever in an instance where I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. It was just more so like this is an odd feeling.
Yeah,
If that
and
makes sense.
I think from a journalistic standpoint, you know, you're not part of the story. You're just documenting the story. So yeah, you being on the edge, you know, using that long telephoto lens to capture anything up close from a good safe distance. It's a good move. It's a good move.
Yeah.
So you said that someone on your social media said that this is not your category or your, you know, specific niche when it came to photography. You have a lot of nature photos. How, I mean, it makes sense when you pair it with you living in Troutdale, but your start as just a photographer, was it just to point a camera outside and look at a tree and kind of grew from there? Or what's your
No,
story like?
so my photography started right around the time my passion for Nike started, actually, and like sneakers specifically. So my friends and I were really into sneakers like our senior year of high school and going on forward. And I remember we wanted to start an Instagram to, I don't know, kind of like a sneaker news type thing. So we just started. I borrowed my sister's camera and started like taking pictures of our shoes. It was super dorky, but a lot of times we ended up ending like at places like Crown Point up and Vista House in the Gorge and things like that. And when we would go to those places, I'd slowly just start like taking, oh, I might grab a photo of the view as well. Like, why not? And then slowly like started progressing. I was like, oh, I started sneaker photos, and then it started into portraits, and then it started like, well, I'm just gonna take my camera with me when I go hiking. I was like, I already go hiking, and it kind of just goes back to what I was saying before. It's like, so when somebody told like for the example of when somebody said like this isn't your niche of photography, like why are you doing this? Well, like my response is that when I take photos or when I'm doing photography, it's like I'm purely here to document what I am doing, right? Like you won't really see on my Instagram or my website like a lot of things that are staged, or so I also don't really don't really do portraits because I don't like fake and the staged and all those aspects of photography. I can respect them as art for other people. I just don't really enjoy doing them. So why most of my photos are nature is because I usually am taking photos. Like, I mean, I'm always taking photos of what I'm doing, and I'm usually in nature. So um, to say that like the protests weren't part of my genre is kind of true. If you look at my feed, like my aesthetic is not news style photography. It's
Mhm.
nature and a little bit of sports, but at the end of the day, it's like those are just what I'm doing, and now this is what I'm doing. Like now I'm part of this BLM protest, so I'm going to continue taking those photos and documenting. So whenever I talk about my work and my art, like that's the biggest word I can use is documenting.
Yeah. And plus, it shows growth that you want to try something else. You got comfortable with nature.
Mhm.
You're slowly working yourself into sports, and now you're going to cover this big event or this big protest, and who knows where it could lead to down the line. Because this experience of being able to be incognito, not just incognito, but just be on the outskirts and just getting the unbiased view of it all. And so in some of your feed with including primarily nature photos, you do have some models. Are those just like friends of yours, or they actually reach out to you to, hey, can you want to do a short shoot, or how did you come in contact with those people?
Yeah, most of the people on my feed, if there's a person on it, it's a friend, or like a photographer that I was shooting with, and just like sometimes like a photo, like, hey, let me take a picture of you. And it's like sometimes it's fun. I don't think I don't think I've really ever reached out to a model or anything like that, just because like honestly, like I don't know, it's just not my, like I said, it's just not
Yeah,
really my genre.
yeah,
Um, I am kind of trying to push myself right now into getting more into that, just because I think whether I enjoy it or not, I still think it's a muscle I need to flex and be comfortable doing. But also, like, just don't have a lot of time right now to do that. But it is kind of on my radar, something I want to focus on. But yeah, I'd say like they're primarily friends on my
yeah.
feed and my photos.
So you tweeted in 2019 that you originally planned to be a professional photographer for a sports team and never worked towards it. I know you took I think Nike Portland, probably played some basketball games at the new basketball arena. That's
Yep.
named after a coach that I cannot think of off the top of my head. Uh,
Coach K is what you're thinking of. Yeah.
The Coach K basketball center. What was that experience like? And I figured, because when I took photos for, like, let's say we did the Nike football, obviously it was fine because it was on Lincoln's turf, but this one was at the actual Nike campus. Was there any kind of waivers you had to sign, or any kind of like blocks to you taking photos there?
No. So every year before COVID, Nike retail would host like a football tournament, a basketball tournament, and I think we did a soccer tournament one time as well.
Hmm.
But it would just be like store versus store. So we'd invite everybody from Eugene up to Seattle, just be like, hey, create a team, come down, we're gonna play this day. The last 2 years, or the last two events we did, so the basketball event you're referring to, and then a football event a couple months later. Um, a couple friends from the company store like created the event and hosted it, so they just asked me if I wanted to take photos for it, and I was like, well, I'm going to be there either way, so I was like, I'm going to play a little bit and take a little bit of photos as well. So I mean, I wasn't getting paid. It wasn't like a special event or anything like special access. It was just I was there and we went to take some photos of it, so I did. But the basketball one specifically was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that one. I think I got some pretty good content in there, and it was also kind of cool. Like I was able to connect with people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. Like I don't know. Sometimes like going through my Instagram feed, I can like realize like how many people from Nike that work at Nike, other stores that I don't know, like follow me purely based off those events,
Hmm.
because of course I always selflessly put my Instagram handle on the flyers when I made them. But
Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's the business we're in. You got self promote, and then you have to self advertise.
yeah, yeah. So that was cool. But yeah, it wasn't like any crazy event or anything like that. It was just something always happens. And I brought my camera this time.
Yeah. Did you have any prior experience to taking sports photos, or was this the one of the very early times?
I think the first time I took photos of athletics was like uh oh, it was we just played basketball at Central Catholic one day, Nike Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
that was the first time I ever done it. Awfully horrible photos, but I enjoyed
Lighting
it.
lighting was so tough in that gym. I remember I
It
went to
was.
one of the early Nike Portland Catholic high school basketball things, and I take shots. I was like, this looks great, and I look at it again on the little screen as just take a little break, and I'm like, wow, we have to do some work on these to get them visible.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you took some of those photos too.
yeah. I did that one time, and then the second time I shot a sporting event was that basketball event you're referring to, and then I took photos for a couple like runners that wanted photos. I did some skate photos, and then I got the opportunity to shoot for the Timbers. I had a friend who is a producer for Adidas MLS. So while I was working at Nike, I did a little like side thing for that, which was cool.
Mm.
That was just a great experience, regardless of if I'm interested in photos or not. But getting to be on the field uh, while they play was a really cool experience. I actually found myself like there's a couple times where like I got distracted being a fan as opposed to the photographer. So like they go to shoot and I like shoot a goal and I put down my camera just to be able to live in the moment and watch it. And I was like, fuck it, no, I need to be here and take photos.
Need to focus. Need to
Um,
focus.
yeah, which was a struggle, but that was a lot of fun too. I really enjoyed that opportunity.
Yeah. So you got to see what it's like as a journalist slash photographer that covers sports games. Would you
Yep.
think of like the press box and yeah, the field access is also great because I've covered the Oregon Ducks for let's say a season with an off not like an affiliate of the school but just a really strong ties website, and then I got to be on the field as they were warming up, and I was like, good God, these people are huge. And it's like, this is awesome, this is a sport I love. I know you are a basketballer, and I think you did a little soccer. I could be wrong there though. You're an athlete, you can do anything basically. So what was the toughest thing you had to work through as you're taking photos for the Portland Timbers outside of being there and watching the game as a fan?
Um, well, in the whole time I was there's like this weird feeling. Well, there's two things, like a weird feeling of I'm not supposed to be there, because I didn't get paid for it. I just wanted the opportunity. And there was just like a lot of other photographers there that like this is their job, this is their full time job, and um, I don't know. That was a little weird, but it's almost like when you start a new job, it's like you spend the first few days like getting familiar with the space and like getting comfortable with your thing, like your surroundings, right? And I think by the end of the game, I started to get a little bit more like familiar and comfortable with that. But at the start of the game, it was a little weird. Just like walking around, it's like, am I supposed to be here? Am I allowed to be here? And just things like that. But also just like it's a big field, man. Like
Yeah.
soccer fields are huge, and they go up and down the field so fast, like so often. It's kind of hard to like be in the right place. Whereas like basketball, it's a significantly smaller court, and then in football, like for the most part, you're marching down the field, right? Like
Mhm.
it's rarely you're on your 20 and then you're on the other person's 20 and then you're back on the 50 and like back and forth like that. Where soccer, it's like boop 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 boop.
Mhm.
So that was also like a little, I don't want to say struggle, but just like I would be like in this corner and nothing would be happening. So I'd go to this corner, and the next thing you know, they're over in this corner that I was just in. Just things like that. So just like the strategy by the end of the game, I kind of like just went with is just hunkering down in the spot for a couple minutes, moving over, hunkering down, moving over, hunkering down, just like get a little bit of all aspects of the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's it can be. I feel like that's also a good workout for you. You get to run back and forth, get to walk around a lot. But as far
Uh,
as just getting that feel of like I'm supposed to be there, was there any time prior to that situation where maybe you just felt uneasy about where you're about to take photos, but then once you got there, you're like, this feels good. This feels about right.
I think um, you're talking about like outside of the timber scheme, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
any other time.
And
Yeah.
does not just be
I
photography. It could just be like any any time in your life where you just didn't feel like you didn't feel like you should be here.
I mean, so the new job I just started, like I wouldn't say I didn't feel like I should be there, but it definitely felt weird on my first day. Like, I was sitting at a desk a lot of the day, which I'm not used to. It's like I've worked retail for my entire life. And then like just not going to work at Nike also was really weird. Like I worked there for 6 years. That became like a very big part of my life and who I was. And going to work at a different place was super weird at first. But I mean, like within a week, like I already feel like I'm at home there. So that went away. Um, from a shooting sense, man, I feel that almost every time I go to shoot a client job, because I'm always like, again, like how I'm talking about my style of photography is very much like focused on documenting. I go into shoots for clients like thinking I need to have this whole plan of this is my shot list, this is what I'm gonna do, this is the order I'm gonna do it, this is how I'm gonna execute it. Um, and it almost never turns out to be that way. It usually just ends up being like, again, like for the BlackRock photos, this is so it's like a monthly basis that I do it. So like the first week of every month I submit some photos to them. And last month I was doing it was the first time I did it. And I went to go shoot with a couple of friends, like they were just gonna be my models for the day. And like I had the shot list, I had these ideas down that I wanted, and I ended up getting all those photos, but it wasn't when I was like trying to create them. It was just like they naturally came, and we were just kind of hanging out, and I was snagging pics. So uh, yeah, I feel like going into a shoot, I always feel a bit of uneasy.
Like, did you ever have a mentor? Did you ever have someone that you could lean on when you needed some photography advice or, ways to excel your photography talents? Or was it just a bunch of hard on yourself? I'm just going to figure this out, and then I'm going to research how to become better myself.
So my sister initially taught me how to use a camera. Sister, if you're watching this, no offense, she doesn't really know a lot, but she taught me like the basic stuff. Like I'm pretty sure when she gave me like let me use her camera, it was on automatic. It wasn't even in manual. So honestly, for me, like if you ask any of my photo friends, like I don't know jack shit about photography. Like I don't know anything about the tech side of cameras. I'm very uneducated in that sense. But mainly it's because like I learned by trial and error. I never like really watched YouTube videos of how to be a good photographer. I just went and took photos and did what I enjoyed and again documented. Like nobody's gonna tell me how to document the life I'm living. So it was a lot of that, and then Instagram's really cool in the sense like of how you can get connected to people. Actually, two really close friends of mine are like pretty involved. Or one of them's like almost a full time. I think I'll call them both full time photographers, but um, I'm not gonna say that they like teach me things like as far as like how to do photography, but it's like also kind of nice to have somebody that you consider a peer that you can kind of I don't want to say compare yourself to either, but like just challenge yourself against. Like um whenever we like these are two of the people I'd usually go on most of those trips with. Like we took a 12-day trip down around California one time, and three people all with a camera, like in that space, like trying to take relatively the same pictures, trying to figure out how you can differentiate yourself, and so you don't literally have all three of you take the exact same image. And that was always a fun little like challenge of just how can I try to be different from what they're doing right here. And yeah, so no, I didn't have a mentor. I definitely like have a lot of photographers I look up to for inspiration, but they're not people that I really communicate with and be like, hey, what do you think of this, or how did you do this type of thing. Yeah.
So when it came to, because your photos are of nature and they're very aesthetically again gorgeous. And did you ever have any creative blocks? How'd you get over those creative blocks? Because again, nature is great, but then let's say I guess during pandemic or just quarantine, you could have still gone out to nature and taken photos. But let's say like it's during the wildfires where you can't do that, what do you do to get over any kind of blocks? Because you might get bored with like the same tree, or what? Yeah, just what do you do in general when it comes to restrictions on going out to nature?
Dude, so that's a good question because even for the past year, probably, I've been in that boat of I do consider myself a nature photographer, but I feel like I've shot everything within a mile or 2 hour radius of me right now so many times. Obviously, not everything, but like the places that I think I want to go shoot, like I've probably shot it. And working full time, it's harder to make those longer trips, you know, especially when you got other obligations like paying rent, paying bills, things like that. It's like it becomes a lot harder to take those trips that I used to take when I didn't have those obligations. So um, I definitely find myself in that position a lot where I'm like, I want to take photos because it's where like I find peace and it's where I like calm. But at the same time, it's like I don't really know where I'm supposed to go to do this anymore. So in those instances, I commonly will try something new. So like for example, in the start of this year, that was shooting photos at the protests. Like that got me really re-energized on photography. That's when I ended up buying my new camera, where I switched from Canon to Sony because I was like, "This is the first time I like this. The most I've been shooting in a while." Um, the time before that, that I got really burnt out is when I decided I wanted to start shooting sports, and that's when I realized like I was really interested in it. Time before that that I felt like that. I tried to do portraiture. So yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, and I think just as somebody who is creative in any sense or any form of art, like you're always going to be harsh critic. The photos like that are on my website right now, I just put them up there. Like I probably updated my website back in August. I probably don't like the photos on there anymore. It's just like things like that all the time. Like I'm always like, I can edit a photo right now, and then tomorrow I look at it and be like, what the hell was I thinking? That happens all the time, and honestly, there's no way for me really to explain to like, deal with that other than like it gives me peace. It kind of sounds fucked up to say, but it gives me peace in thinking that like every artist does that. Like every artist critiques himself. Every artist, like as much you can try not to, you're gonna compare yourself to other people, and it's just like for me, the nice thing to think about is like this isn't my job, this isn't my profession. It's not that big of a deal to me. Like I do it for fun, and if I can make some money off it, that's great. But I don't need people to like my photos. I don't need anything like that. I just like to. I need myself to like them though, which is a constant battle.
So I have that same issue like at first where let's say I'm reviewing my first episode with Brandon Shimada. I was just like, this is horrible. I sound bad. My like lead up to a question is just complete, it's just garbage because I just keep fumbling the words or I'm just trying to put too much fluff words. And then let's say most recently a friend, he watched that episode. He's like, I thought you were great. And then I'm like, was I really though? How hard is it for you to accept praise when it comes to a photo that you didn't like or just something else you didn't like that is now it's public?
It's damn near impossible for me, man. Every time somebody tries to compliment me on something, I just like kind of shut down and like stop. Like again, like I said, I just started a new job, and my company's owner the other day was like, Alex, I was like kind of looking at your Instagram the other day. Those are really good, and I was like, like I don't know, I don't know how to respond to that, man. It's like I'm not I'm not good at no, I'm not good at accepting praise, or if like people say something nice about my photos, I'll say thanks. But if they like try and like get a little bit more and deeper on it, it's really hard for me to talk about myself in that sense.
So then why did you accept my request to be on this podcast where it's going to be all about your photography and you and just sharing your story?
It's something that I'm trying to fix about myself because I think like I don't know. In some senses, like I think when people compliment me and I respond that way, it can seem humble. But in other times, I think it can seem ignorant, and I don't want to come off that way because I'm not. I'm never like, oh, somebody says, "Nunley, your photos are really good," and I'm just like, "Yeah, thanks." Like, that's not how I mean to say it, but I feel like it could come off that way sometimes. So, challenging myself to get outside my comfort zone. A B, also, I know that you're trying to get into this, and this seems like something you're really interested and passionate in. So if I can I can help provide that content, all for it. And see, I kind of always wanted to be on a podcast, honestly.
Yeah, see, there you go.
I never knew what I was gonna be talking about, but hey.
Yeah, no, it's um yeah, it's starting to become a passion of mine where I get to talk with people like yourself that never had an opportunity because podcasting is such a celebrity or athlete or comedian kind of world because they have all these connections, all these friends. But it's like, I've worked with you for, I think it was like about a year or something like that, where
Something like that.
our times overlapped. And then, with Cody McCormick, I interviewed him recently. It's like, you guys have some fun stories to tell. Let's get your names on Spotify and iTunes and get all the world to see. And you mentioned you had 14 million followers, or and 14,000 bajillion,
14,000.
bajillion followers. So it's, I think it's a fun opportunity for you to like share yourself outside of what's people see in front of the lens. Let's see, get to know this guy from behind the lens. And you got to show some people a little side of you with your vlogging. And then your first one was in 2017, where I believe you're at a diner with a couple friends. And how did the idea? Were you like just nervous about actually doing videos instead of photography, or was this all your idea?
I don't remember how it started, honestly. So a couple minutes ago, when I was like talking about meeting friends through Instagram, right? That was the stage I was in. So the girl that was there, she was just like some random person. I don't remember how we met, but we hung out and like took photos. And Justin was another guy that was in that video, and that was the first time I had met him. Thought he was a really fucking weird dude. If you're watching this, I stand by that statement. But yeah, like over time, we actually ended up becoming really good friends, and like it just led to like a good friendship where I've traveled around a lot of the West Coast with him and our other friend Miles. And honestly, I got into vlogs because Casey Neistat, like, I'm a big fan of him, and I thought what he was doing with like being able to make a movie, like basically making a movie every single day of his life, I thought was really sick. And at the time, I was taking a lot of these nice little fun weekend trips. So I was like, photos are great, but at the same time, like I love looking back on those videos and being able to watch it and just like seeing the level of stoke that I had at the time, and just I don't know, it's like good nostalgia for me. And I remember like that one specifically. We were up, I think we were going up to Olympic Peninsula, and we were just sitting in a diner. I was like, I'm a vlog, and they're like, what? And I was like, I'm gonna vlog this. I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what's gonna come of it. I don't know anything about it, but I'm gonna try it. And then I did that, and then a little bit later, I went to Utah, vlogged that, and then I tried to do like more vlogs, and it's funny because like watching them, I can see they got a lot better. Like they actually got like kind of quality, but I think that I don't know if that's just I think that because of like the feelings they would bring me of like happiness and nostalgia and whatnot. But yeah, it was just something different. And again, it was one of those things where you're asking, it's like, how do you like challenge your creativity, and like when you get burnt out on something, like how do you get through that rut? And like that was one of the ways for me as well. It's like I started focusing more on doing vlogs rather than taking photos, and that was a fun little challenge.
Yeah. And so friends can start, or just people in your life can start to be associated with, some object, so, or some idea that they always pursue. So, you can have a friend that always goes after the girls because he's always single, or you can have a friend that's always down for a bike ride or down for a hike. How do you feel about you starting to become the guy associated with a lens always in front of his face, whether it's a camera or camcorder?
I think, I mean, people might disagree with me, but I feel like I never became that. I was very determined to not be that. Like, I take photos, but I'm also like usually like I'd rather be in the moment than taking photos. I don't know. It's a good question though. Like, I feel like a lot of people. It, man, that's actually a good question. It's like different friend groups that perceive it a different way, right? So it's
Yeah.
like the friends from, like, for example, friends from high school that I don't see as often, but like I can still be close with, right? Like when I see them, like there's a couple of friends in particular that are like, man, like all the shit you're doing is really dope. Like that's so sick. and at the same time, I'm sitting there, it's like, I just share old photos a lot. Like, I'm not on the move like you may think through Instagram, right? Um, and I don't know. It's just different friend groups can perceive it different ways. I think the
Mhm.
ones that are like closest to me, like they know I like photography and I'm passionate about it, but it doesn't become like an excessive need to be taking photos ever. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't
Oh,
know
there
if
you
I answered
go.
your question or not. I kind of rambled there.
No, you're good. So back in April 14th, 2007, you took a photo of a bear with the caption, "He didn't wave, currently sitting at Starbucks trying to decide where to go next."
Wait,
Uh,
2007 or
17,
2017?
17,
Oh,
17.
I was
Sorry,
like, I don't
sorry.
think so. No, so that's actually at a wild game farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I only had to ask because there is a bear that I saw once in Montana, but I don't think I ever posted a picture of it. So that's why I was like, "Whoa, what the hell? How do you know that?" But
Now
no, yeah,
everyone knows.
yeah, that one was the picture you're referring to. It's like up in Olympic Peninsula in Port Angeles. And it's like kind of like a drive-through game farm. Um, there's like a tiny fence in between the bear, but I'm pretty sure the bear is just trained. So
Mm.
I wasn't worried about that. What I was worried about though is this freaking bison. No, not bison. Buffalo. I don't know what it was actually. Some big ass hog of an animal bumping up against the side of my car. Because like if it's not a bear, it's just walking around. But the bears are in an enclosure
Mm.
for obvious reasons. Um, yeah, so that one I didn't really have a fight or flight, but there was a time in um actually now that I say it, it might have been I don't remember if it was North Cascades National Park or Glacier National Park, but I came across a bear and that was a scarier moment because I was actually in the wild. It was probably 100 yards away from me. It probably didn't see me, but it was still like a sweaty palms type thing.
Yeah, yeah. And then, in some of your vlogs, you have, they were covering some road trips. You did, I think, the, I guess what the climbing you have to do to get some of these photos. Let's say you had to go down like a fallen tree log and then, or cross over some wet rocks to get a good photo of a fall. Now, is this one of those, I'm going to do it for artistic and I think it's going to be a great photo, or you're just like, as you start that progress to climb towards that area, are you just like, this is an insane idea, why am I doing this? Or no, the climbing, because that just seems very risky when I see you in those videos with only like a beanie and like white shoes and like a very fluffy jacket. I'm like, this guy, was he prepared to do this kind of hiking, or was this kind of spur of the moment?
It was most likely spur of the moment, man. The white shoes thing is actually really funny because I had a pair of like just all white Converse that for some reason I decided to dub my adventure shoes, and I didn't see a problem with that until I was again this time was for sure in Glacier, um, and my friend and I we went to go visit his ex girlfriend, and she went to school at University of Montana, and or Montana State, I don't remember which, but we went to Glacier before we went there, and like it was the next morning we were getting ready to leave, and like I pulled the car off to the side of the road and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like walk down through the trees to this lake really quick. And my friend's like, it's cold as hell outside, I'm not going, you can go, right? And I climbed down there, and I was like standing on the rocks like taking a couple pictures, and I went to turn, and like Converse don't have good traction, I just slipped, and man, like I hit the rocks like kind of hard, not like death, like obviously I didn't die, but I hit
It
the rocks
just,
kind of hard, and I was just like, damn, I gotta get a different pair of shoes. Like I just realized like how many times I'm out by myself, and like similar shit has happened. It's like, man, if I hit my head and I didn't have a friend with me, like who knows what could happen. But I think more often than not, I err on the safe side. But just you asking that question, like I can think of a handful of times where I was like, "You're a fucking dumbass."
but was it worth it in the end? As far as like the quality photo and all that?
I mean, that photo, absolutely not. But one photo in particular in Yosemite, it's a pretty iconic spot. It's called uh, Glacier Point. You see a lot of pictures of people like standing on this little rock. I can send you the picture afterwards. But I went out there and stood on it so my friend could take a photo. And it's like, even though I'd seen like 1,000 photos of people doing it, I'd seen photos like people hanging it. It's like, no, my hands are sweating just talking about it right now. Like nothing can prepare you to be standing over 3,000 feet of nothing, just straight down,
Yeah.
And that was something. It was like I'm happy I did it because like it was a thrill and it was a really cool experience to be able to like look down and just see that drop. At the same time, it's like definitely wasn't worth it. I could have saw that drop from like a couple feet back in like different angle, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What would you say is what is your goal with all your nature photography? Like, do you want to be on Natural Geographic? Do you want to have your own Disney Plus special where you just travel around the world? I know you want to go to Iceland. Where do you want to take this?
Honestly, I have that conversation with myself a lot. I don't really at this current moment in my life, I don't want to take it anywhere. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, like make a little bit of money off the side from it, which is nice, but I like to keep it as a hobby rather than a job, because once it becomes a job, then it becomes less pleasurable to do, and I don't ever want to reach that point with it, because it's like kind of my thing that brings me peace, and like it's kind of like my yoga in a sense, like at least it has been for a long time, and I'm trying to get back to allowing it to be that like release for me.
Mm.
And I think if it becomes a job, it loses that value. But I mean, hell, dude, at the same time though, like if Nat Geo were to hit me up and be like, hey, we want to pay you to travel the world and take photos, I don't see myself saying no.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's necessarily something I'm going to be working towards.
Okay. Yeah, for now, just keep having fun with it, and then maybe once you retire, then you can, or you're ready to like take a step back from work. There you go, part-time
Yeah.
at the National Geo.
Yeah.
So I like to end my conversations by asking a few hypothetical questions. I have 2 marked up here, and out of like, let's say 160, no, 170 total. So just be lucky we're not going through the whole shebang bang, but you're only getting 2. So
Okay.
my first question to you: if you had to prove you were a human and not an AI in 5 minutes via a text conversation, how would you do it?
I approve. Can I just send a picture of myself?
It says text, so it has to be words.
Words. I think a rap I got specifically while working at Nike. But I think most people that are close to me can attest to this. I'm kind of a sarcastic ass sometimes.
Yep.
So I think I would just continue that route. I don't really think many AI systems could. I don't know exactly what I'd say. I really have to go off what the other person's saying in that conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, sarcasm is my key to success.
Yeah. So the sarcastic ass kind of persona that you have, where did that come from? Is that like something you kind of got from your siblings, or is this something that you picked up like from the streets of the playgrounds?
No, man, I don't really know where it came from, honestly. I mean, like my family, like we like to joke with each other. And I'm like, I still don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
actually a rude person. And just like,
Yeah.
I think I have that sense of humor where it's like, I like to make jokes, and some people don't like those jokes sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think most people that actually like that I say that to, like, I don't really think a lot of people actually think that. They just like, I don't know. Like, there's just a couple people at work where like I can make those jokes with them. I feel like I'm rambling now. I don't know.
No,
I don't
yeah.
really think, like, I know I'm not an asshole. I'm not like a bad person, but I think I can make jokes to make it seem like that. And the people who actually know me, like, they know I'm joking.
Yeah,
So
because I remember when I first started talking to you, and then you just got so comfortable with everyone at Nike, and then I started like in the short conversations we would have. Yeah, I got a sense there's some sarcasm to some of your delivery, which is that's you. That's what makes
yeah,
you, and it's perfect. So I
I'm
was
also
like,
just very straightforward in a lot of senses, especially at work. And I think other people don't like that, but I think it's kind of a waste of time to beat around the bush. But
yeah.
that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and plus, you're gonna be you. You're not gonna be someone else. I mean, if anything, you could be a professional version of yourself while at work. But like, if they're friends or on public, let it all rip. Just
Yeah,
get it all out there.
let it out there. Don't suppress anything.
So my last hypothetical question to you, because you are in the creative realm, if you had an endless supply of Legos but couldn't sell them, what would you build?
Um, Probably build a house.
House?
Yeah, that's been something that's like I don't know where I'd build it right now, but that's been something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's like I never like understood the thrill of owning a home until I lived in an apartment for a year.
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, I want a house so bad. If I had the endless supply, I was like, I could make a pretty good house. I think I can make it pretty warm, few rows deep on all
Yep.
the walls, and it takes some time, but I think that's what I'd go with.
Yeah. I mean, just get tarp to, get the water out and then insulate it by stuffing the cracks in between the bricks. And then there you go. You got it.
Perfect. Maybe do like a couple rows of bricks and then some insulation and a couple more rows of bricks. And
Yep.
we got the exterior.
Yep. And then, obviously a bed frame made of Legos, but then the actual bed will be an actual bed. Because I don't think you want to sleep on Legos.
No, it'd probably be like the point sides of the Legos that I'd sleep on.
Yeah. Yeah. There you
Just
go.
kidding.
Alex Nunley, where can the people find you on social media?
At @A_Nunley. Also, I just started a new job as a social media coordinator for a company called Straightaway Cocktails. So if you want to smash that follow on them as well, but only if you like cocktails. If you don't really like it and you're just doing it for me, don't bother. Yeah, that's where I am. Not very active these days, but if you still want to follow and scroll back and relive the good old days, then feel free to.
Yeah. And he has a website, alexnunley.com. Check out there. Go there, check out his photos, and maybe purchase buy some prints. Why not?
Buy some prints.
Help us. You're not starving artists. Help an artist out. There you go.
Yeah.
Unless you're hungry right now.
I'm pretty hungry. I'm pretty hungry right now. Actually, I'm hungry some food right now.
There you go, man.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the interview. Do you have any questions for the guest? Put them in the comments below, then I'll get them answered for you. So if you like what you heard and you want to hear more from Keoni Chats, the show can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, and now Amazon Music. But if you want a video version, you can search Keoni Chats on YouTube, subscribe, and hit the bell button to get notified when a new episode is released. To stay connected with KC Media and Keoni Chats, you can follow KC Media 13 on both Instagram and Twitter. And then on Facebook, search Conlu K Media, and that will take you to KC Media's Facebook page. So if you'd like to be a guest, go ahead and direct message me on any of those social media platforms, or you can email me on kcmedia13@yahoo.com. So until the next episode, everyone, please take care.